Mr. Calvin.
Yes.
We're gonna take it back. I want to know what got you into loving music. Sorry about that. What got you into loving music and then wanting to be a musician and a vocalist?
Oh, well, I've been wanting to do that my whole life. I just didn't know. Um, I wasn't sure, if I was ever going to be able to do it. Just because, for whatever reason. So as far as like what made me love music, I can't say for sure what it is that made me love it. It's just been around me my whole life. My dad was into oldies and like Motown, so lots of Temptations, the Beatles, what else? The four, Frankie Valli, the Four Seasons.
Right.
So, and then my mom was always a country listener. So there was lots of like Conway Twitty and George Strait and Johnny Cash, Johnny Paycheck, just all that stuff. And then my brother, I actually have a lot of people don't know I have three brothers and a sister. They're all half. I'm the only one that was born between my parents. But even though they had been around most of my life when I was very little, they weren't around most of my life later. But my brother, uh, Derek, he kind of lived with us until he was, 16 or 17 or something like that before he went back to his dad's because I'm from Illinois.
Yeah.
Um, and he used to watch Headbangers Ball when I was a little kid. So I remember, watching that stuff. Like, so it was always Alice Cooper and Poison and Slayer and whatever was on Headbangers Ball. Ricky Rockman was just like like one of those guys that you always looked up to. Guns N' Roses, but the things that stick out, I think, the most in my head was the very first time I saw the video for I Love It Loud by Kiss. And I don't know if you've ever seen that video, but it's the the dinner, the family sitting at the dinner table, and then the son is just like there's this clear tension in the air in the video, and then of course the beat starts kicking in, and then he's like sitting in front of the TV, and then Gene Simmons with just the fire and the blood, and so between that and the video for One by Metallica, I think those are like the two earliest solid memories of like, oh my god, like music was always a thing, but it was like those are just like embedded in my brain forever in my life. Just from the imagery. Of course, if any of you ever seen them, Metallica, I'm sure you have the Metallica One video. It's just that like that version of the song is so much different than the album version because you have the movie roll like on the background. It's just all these samples and stuff. It's just it was it's for someone that age because I was like 4 or 5, like for someone my age is like it just it it leaves a mark. And so that's kind of like I would say where it started between just the family. Everyone had their own taste of music, so I've always been very very broad about what I listen to, but just I think the imagery went along with it. And then just as time went on, man, like Guns N' Roses was a huge thing for me when I was a kid. Right? Like I would sit in my room with like a wiffle ball bat, pretending it was a mic and pretending I was like Axl Rose. Just so I knew like very like early on I wanted to do the vocal thing, but it didn't really come immediately because there were other things, like Kiss was like my favorite band for years. So it was like I loved Peter Criss. Like so I wanted to play the drums. I even did percussion in in middle school for 3 years.
Mhm.
And I tried other things like guitar. Of course, when that stuff had other stupid shit I was doing as a teenager, so none of it stuck.
Yeah.
So I would say that's probably where it all started. It's just it grows, it grows and grows and grows. Because by the time I was in second grade, my best friend Ryder at the time, he came over and he was like, he was big into the Tupac and and Biggie and just like the hip hop scene for a little while. But then one day, like a switch flipped in him, when his mom got a new boyfriend, and she got us into like People of the Sun and oh yeah, vulgar display of power.
Yeah, the game changer.
I got handed that CD, and then even more, it went even further, man. Like, after a few years, then my buddy shows up at my house, and he's like, "So you got to listen to these bands," and he showed me the Great Malenko,
Mm-hmm.
and then he was like, "You got to hear this shit," and he's like, he had the first 2 Korn records. And I remember seeing Blind on Headbangers Ball, but it didn't click at that time. It didn't click until my buddy put on that first self-titled record in my house. And I was like, this is it. Like, like it kind of just evolves over the years.
Mm-hmm.
So and it just hasn't gone anywhere. My love of music is just stuck.
So your first foray into music was percussion in school.
Yeah.
And then when did that evolve into bands and stuff?
So I really wanted to be a drummer for a long time. I never got to be behind the kit, so I never got to develop those skills. But like extra, like I think between Dim and Pariah, I've told the guys, like, if you ever wanted to, like, we wanted to do extra percussion, like bring out like a floor tom or fucking some crazy, I could do that, no problem. But I wanted to be a drummer for years. And then as a teenager, of course, I picked up a guitar. I'm not good at guitar.
Is there
That's
ever
not
going
even
to
me being modest. I'm just not good at guitar.
That was originally supposed to be.
I know enough to make chords or whatever.
I mean, we could maybe
I tried the bass thing.
say our final years could be
it'd probably be easier to make
either,
nowadays with
that.
Oh, cool.
technology. You can record it with your phone now.
I mean, if we had started out now, there'd probably be no band, Yeah. But,
and then,
back then,
I don't know. I kind of gave up on the idea of like doing
Didn't have
anything
the
band
computers
wise.
to edit on.
no one, everyone didn't have video cameras.
I kind of got introduced to the scene in Vegas. So
it might be a completely different situation 30 years later.
in my early,
who knows? Maybe it'll be a Broadway show someday.
Like,
Yeah.
like, I didn't even gamble.
Your
when I was
biggest
21,
achievement is
I was like,
a Broadway about.
I was getting clean from
your
drugs.
story. And it's like,
And
whoever saw that come
I
That'd
had
be
almost
neat.
went to prison for dealing drugs. So I was trying to clean my life up. My 21st year, I didn't drink. I didn't do fucking, anything like that. But then, my best friend Kyle came back to town for a little while, and we lived together. And we had parties at the house every weekend. And then his half brother Timmy was in a band called Soul something from California. Fuck, what was the name of that band? Soul something. I don't know. They were kind of this weird amalgamation of like Korn and like even like the early sex art stuff that Jonathan Davis used to do.
Yeah.
So it was like this weird amalgamation of that. And we had went and seen them when they came to Vegas and they played the Cooler Lounge. And that's when the first time we saw The Fallen, which later became The Fallen Vegas, which then became 21 Strong. And then, of course, shortly after that, like, because we had parties at the house, that was when I met Wes.
Okay.
Because Wes and Dim was just starting in 2006, and they would come to the house during our parties and stuff. And Wes was just like, Wes is one of the most beautiful people you'll ever meet in your life.
Mm-hmm.
All right. He is so amazingly kind, but then at the same time, his presence demands respect.
Yeah.
You know, and that was what I like. I fell in love with the guy the first time I met him, and he told me about his band. You know, so between the Fall in Vegas and then Dim, I started going to the shows in our local, and after a while, you get to know the songs. You start to get a passion for them. And then, the guys notice that you're singing the songs. The next thing you know, they're shoving a mic in your face, So, I didn't scream very good the first time that happened. So I was like, all right, well, if I'm gonna be at these shows and people are gonna start stuffing mics in my face, I should probably learn how to do this. So, I started listening to a lot of Lamb of God and trying to figure out how Randy Bly was screaming.
Right.
And then I found out about Melissa Cross. So I started watching her videos and kind of, figured out a better way for me that wasn't hurting me.
Yeah.
And then next thing I know, I'm jumping on stage, and it's no longer a mic being stuffed in my face. I'm being pulled on stage to do a song. 1 year, I think Jesse from 21 Strong pulled. I think it was my birthday. He made me do Brainwashed, the whole song, whatever. And then me and Wes become friends or whatever. I think it was 2009. They had a member that wasn't able to make a show, and it was just like, hey, you know the songs, why don't you? I told Wes, I was like, man, if I could play an instrument, I'd be in a band with you. He was like, you know the songs, why don't you come do a show with us?
Yeah.
I was like, that's not what I meant, bro. But somehow, I was like, because half of me is going, there's no way I'm going to do this. And then the other half of me is kind of really intrigued by, the concept of it. So, I showed up at Wes's house one time. And of course he was living with my buddy Nick at the time.
Mm-hmm.
They were roommates, and I showed up at his house, and he went over some songs and some specific things he wanted me to do. There was some stuff that their old vocalist didn't do, and he was like, you don't have to do this, but it's something I like. I'm like, well, if I'm gonna do this, I want to learn. I want to try and do it right.
Yeah.
And then it went from doing a fill-in, just at a Cheyenne saloon show, to okay, well, this guy can't do the shows anymore. He's not, obviously I'm leaving some details out there, but he is just no longer going to be in the band. And I, next thing I'm like, well, why don't you, next thing I'm at the House of Blues stage, I'm not even a full member of the band yet. And I'm being asked to do another show with him and another show. And then eventually I got a call from Knuckles, who was the guitarist at Dim at one point. And he said, how dedicated are you to Dim? I'm like, well, I mean, fucking love you guys, I'm a huge fan of the band, and I've been jumping on. And he's like, well, how would you like to be a full member of the band? So it's like, and then my wife said, if you don't do this, I'm gonna kill you.
Yeah.
I mean, she wasn't my wife then, but she's like, if you don't do this, I'm gonna kill you. So and I've just been stuck with it ever since.
Mm-hmm. And so Dim has been kind of on a long hiatus. Yeah. What's the current status?
So we're not broken up, if that's what anybody's asking. We're not broken up. We're just, everybody's kind of got their thing. We've all got our schedules. I work a insane schedule. I'm usually able to get shows off, so it's not really a huge deal, but I work a fucking crazy ass schedule. So having a second band to practice with would be a huge pain.
Yeah.
Wes is doing his wrestling stuff.
Mm-hmm.
He's literally, I think he's out of town like every weekend, and then when he is doing wrestling in town, it's usually his own promotion, the Versus, and that's here and there. Bastard, he moved to Colorado with his family.
Wested.
He no not
Okay.
I said bastard to clown. I just realized. Nick Bastard.
Okay.
He moved to Colorado.
Okay.
So that's kind of what like the big thing was, like, is that we had moved to Colorado. Ashes, Travis, he works construction, but he's also doing his own thing at Tarot.
Yep.
Which is a fucking awesome death metal, thrash metal, fucking
brutal as fuck.
Yeah,
badass.
Yeah, it's so fucking good. That guy doesn't understand how good he is. Like, he so hates everything he does so much, like, and not even hates what he does. He loves doing it. He loves what he writes for himself, but he thinks that he's just so shitty, that he thinks he's just doing it for himself, and it sucks because he's such an amazing musician. Yeah. And then Twitch, I think, is doing some cover stuff with his uncle, and Blight, or James, our bassist, he just works the union stuff. So it's like there's members of us on, like we're ready to go. We always have a situation set up so that if something comes up, because we almost played 4th of July last year. We had a show lined up that we had agreed to, but I guess there was just some stuff that fell through. But we had actually met and practiced. 5 of us did. I think it was the only one that didn't make was Nick. But everyone else, we had met up and did a practice. It was the first practice in like 5 years. Because the last show we've played all together was with Guar in like 2019 or 2020 or something like that.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, we're still together. We just kind of like, at this point, we're just like, listen, we're not changing any more members. We are really happy with the members we have, and it's so hard to, like, you rotate through members. Like, sometimes it's you don't get along with somebody, or it just like upsets the balance. We have a lineup that we are super happy with, so we just decided, you know what, we don't need to play all the time. All right, if something comes up that we absolutely can't pass up, then, and we need both guitarists, we've always worked on a basis where fill-ins are good.
Yep.
We can use a fill-in if we need to. Most cases, the songs that we play, we're able to work into a one guitar setup. Mm-hmm. So whether or not it's Nick or Ashes that's available, we make it work. It's just nothing's come up. Everybody's just busy. So
transitioning into Pariah was one. When did that kind of start taking shape?
So in 2017, late 2017, I was approached by Jason Hines and Kevin. And well, I mean, it's mainly Jason at first, and I have been approached several times over the years by different people to start other projects or become part of other projects, and I have always told people, no, I fucking suck, bro. I've always said that. That's just what I've told people. And that's what I told Jason when he asked me. He was like, hey, me, I think they were in Bipolar at the time. They were both playing in Bipolar. And like I said, Jason had approached me. He had approached me with, like, there was a different expectation. He was like, oh, we're going to do this project. It's going to be kind of like Dry Kill Logic, which I love Dry Kill Logic. And like me and Kevin just want to do this and we're going to build the lineup. He's like, would you be down to do vocals? And I was like, fuck no, bro. I suck ass, and then I was like, well, I gave it some thought. I was like, can I hear some of the music? Because at the time, I hadn't written a whole song worth of lyrics. I mean, I've written poems and things that I thought were songs, but never became anything over the years. But like for Dim, I had only been writing like verses or breakdowns or lines or, backing vocals, stuff like that. I hadn't really written like a front to back, all the melodies, everything. And but yeah, he came. He's like, yeah, we can. I'll see what Kevin will send you some stuff. So he sent me the demo for Nova, which oddly he named Nova, but it's like some of those songs they keep their names, some of them they don't. But I listened to it and I was like, oh yeah, like it was very like genty, fucking just all of these weird fucking lengths and that's something I've been wanting to do a lot of, that we just weren't moving towards with them. I think we'd have little hints of it, but we hadn't really done anything in that direction. I was just like, I fucking really want to do this. And so I was like, all right, well, I'm not gonna say yes, but let me try and write something for it. And then I'll I'll audition, basically. Let me audition for it. Don't just like ask me and me say yes. So I called up Travis, and because at the time I didn't really have a setup yet here to do any of that stuff with. All I had was this mic, and but I didn't have like an audio interface or anything. And I was just like, I can't really do it. So I was like, I need your help. And so I went to his place and I wrote and demoed this terrible, terrible demo of like the first rendition of Nova. It was absolutely disgusting. The vocals were terrible. And I sent it to Jason and Kevin messaged me and said, I hear what you're going for, and I think there's potential.
Mm-hmm.
So I would like to work with you on this. So we started, trying to put together a lineup. There was a practice with that lineup, minus a bassist. We didn't have a bassist yet. And that lineup included Glenn, who's a part of the band. But nobody could coordinate at the time. Glenn was trying to get his life in order. I don't know what the details were at the time was. I just know that he was having like he wasn't always available, and me and Kevin would try and pay for practice space. We try and schedule something, and then for some reason or another, nothing could make it happen. I don't think Jason had a vehicle at the time. We did a couple writing sessions at Kevin's house. Kevin sent me like 3 or 4 other demos, and a couple of them I had written stuff for, and one of them I think there was he wasn't sure because I guess he had presented it to Bipolar at the time, and he wasn't sure if they were going to use it, so that was kind of like on the burner. And then there was just one day where we had tried to get a practice together, and it fell through. And then Kevin put in the chat. He just said, "This isn't going to work," and he just left the chat. So I messaged him on the side. And I said, "Hey, man, I've already got shit written for these. Like, I believe in what we're doing. So why don't you and I keep going, and we'll build a lineup later." And he was like, "Okay, yeah, we can do that." So we wrote a bunch of stuff, and then we just one by one, finally Glenn had an more open schedule. So, Glenn was back in the fold because we jammed with Twitch actually for a little bit. For several months, Twitch was, we were jamming in the dim practice space with Twitch, but eventually Twitch was like, I am too busy, I can't do it, right now. And so Glenn became available again. We started fucking jamming with Glenn, and then we brought in, the original lineup, so Oscar and Nor, and that was, the first fleshed out lineup. And we just fucking kept steaming ahead.
So when did Aaron kind of start backing you up and supporting and get kind of being like a mentor?
So I have known Aaron since I think 2011, 2012. I met him online. There was a time when Ivan Moody had a Facebook page. I don't know if many people remember it, but Ivan Moody used to be up late, and he would post these. He would just he would be up late at night, and so was I at the time. I was always up late, so he would do this thing at night where he would just post videos on his Facebook page of just bands that he listened to. Some of them were big bands, some of them were smaller bands, more indie stuff like that. And he posted the original video for the original version of Resurrection by Gemini Syndrome. Now, I don't know how many have heard the original version. It's a little different, but in the video, I forget where it was recorded, but it's almost like a live video. It could have been at the Whiskey. But all the bands, I think, they're all wearing black. Even Aaron was wearing all black in that video, I think, which is weird because now you see him and he's usually all in white, and I saw the video and I was just I was totally enthralled, and I had commented on it, and I said he looks like Gandalf's kung fu cousin, is what I said in my comment. And Aaron replied to the comment. He was he said, "So I'm a kung fu wizard. I'll take it." And I said, "Sorcerer, sir, don't sell yourself short." And me and him started messaging back and forth. We kind of just had an online friendship over the years, because I think at some point I ordered that EP because that was right around the time they got signed. So I have the original EP with all the original versions of those songs, and they had stopped selling it. I had gotten to the page by mistake because it was a link left up on a video, and even though the page was still out there, there was actually their website was no longer connected to it. So I had ordered it, and I didn't get the EP, and I finally messaged him, and he was like, "Well, I'll have to talk to Brian. You shouldn't have even been able to order that, So, and then 2 days later, I got the CD in the mail. But eventually, at some point, Aaron, I had met him finally in person, literally the night after I got married. They were playing the Cheyenne Saloon. So I went, went up there, and I met him for the first time in person. That was in 2013. And then not very long after, because like I said, we just always kept in contact, Not very long after, there was another show. He gave me his number, which still blows my mind to this day. He didn't know me from Adam, but and then me and him would text rather than message. And then he called me one day and was just like, "I'm moving to Vegas, and I need fucking good people in my circle." And I wanted to tell him, then I don't know why you're fucking calling me. But he's like, "I just need good people in my circle." And I think that was like, he had moved out here, and he was, I think, with his ex at the time. But they moved out here, and I think I went to his house one day, and that of course was when Memento Mori was coming out. And I think it wasn't very long after that Pariah started, and I was just started showing him the riffs, and he was like, "Oh, this is awesome," like he's like, "I fucking love your guitarist voicings," like he was just like, "This is really, really fucking cool." And then he just kind of like threw it out there. He's like, "If you fucking need any help with anything, um I had kind of started, and I was kind of like in a spot where I just wasn't sure if my vocals were going to make it. And to be honest, there were, Glenn was very upfront with me. He said, I wasn't sure, the first time I heard you sing, like, that this was going to work. Because I just was not yet. I've never been super confident in my voice. So it's just like, wasn't feeling it. Aaron kind of sat down with me and showed me some like warm-ups, and ways to like work on stuff. He's like, you need to do this before you practice, you need to do it before you perform, before you go in the studio. Like, so I was doing it like all the time. And it, so that was like the first time he showed me like a couple like little scale stuff. And then of course, after I started writing stuff and showing him the songs, he was like, I want to help you with the melodies, like I want to help you, with harmonies and stuff like that. So, when it was getting down to the time to record the first record, I would go to his house, and we'd be over there. I'd be over there for like 8 hours, and we'd just be going through the songs like you would in the studio. And he'd just be like pushing me, like, try this, try this, try this, try this. But yeah, I've always picked his brain, even before, Pariah, like, because Dim opened up for them. Like, I've always picked his brain about touring. I've always picked his brain about, certain vocal, things. Like, so I don't think there was ever a time that it evolved. He just like became my friend, and then just became my mentor.
Right.
That's how I looked at it. He's not just like one of my very close friends. He's also a very good teacher.
Mm-hmm. But it was the whole thing was a natural progression.
Yeah, it was absolutely just a natural thing. And we had always talked from the first record, hey, about doing a song together.
Yeah.
It just what we weren't sure. I think it was even you that told me after that first record, Out of Reach. When I wrote Out of Reach on the first record, right? And I wrote those vocals out, I had to go through and listen to every Gemini song and make sure that I hadn't ripped off one of his vocal melodies. There was something about it. It's not that I sound like Aaron, because I don't sound like Aaron at all. But there was something about it after I wrote it that said, oh shit, I think I just ripped off Aaron. Like, I could have swore that I did. And then I listened to everything, I didn't hear anything. I'm like, all right. And then even you had told me when you first heard it, you was like, I can hear I can hear it in that song. There was even like a couple, even when I think one of Aaron's friends heard that song for the first time, was like, are you in that song? Like, he's like, no. Just so that was just like the first foray into that, I guess. But we had always talked about it, and it just, it finally came to fruition.
About time.
So, yeah. Well, I just couldn't figure. I wanted it to be like the perfect song. The perfect song. It has to be a perfect song if I'm going to ask Aaron to, take time out of his fucking life to record a song with a little local band. And but to be honest, like, he's never viewed us like that. He's never treated us like that. He's never ever been the guy that's like, I'm too big for this. He's always been, just so supportive and so awesome and helpful.
For sure. Well, Calvin, for everyone that has supported you all along the way, before Dim, through Pariah Was One, in the future, what do you say to them?
What the fuck is wrong with you people? No, no, I absolutely fucking love you. Just like everybody that's supported every little stupid dream or every little hobby that I have. Even the things that don't take off, and fucking the things that do. I love you very much and thank you. And I can honestly say that from the whole band and to their loved ones, their wives, their fucking girlfriends, their families, their friends, every fucking person that has been to a show, every person that has fucking, listened, streamed one of our songs, watched one of our videos, fucking me, Kevin, Glenn, Corey, fucking love you all and thank you very much.
I love you, brother.
Love you too, man.
I miss you. I miss being around the scene and everything.
Yeah, but I think you needed to get away from this place. I need to get away from this place. I don't know if I ever will, but
I needed to get away, and this time it's a permanent one, but not permanent as in I'm never coming back. I mean, I'm going to come and visit and everything, but
yeah, no, I see that you fucking have fixed, found a nice fixed place in your life, and I think with everything you've been through, especially the last few years, you deserve it. So good on you.
Ditto for you, man. We've been through a lot of shit.
Yeah,
and here we are. All right, dude. It's been a pleasure to chat with you, and we'll chat again soon.
For sure.
We need to catch up some more, and sorry, I know you're like me. Like we both just kind of stay in our little mental bubble for a while, and then.
Bro, that's why I stream now. Like it allows me to socialize without going anywhere. Like I'm, able to just sit in my bubble, play video games, and people talk to me. So, and then it also helps get the band out. Like I get to talk about the band. I get to talk about anything I want, really.